Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Trev Talks Tech. I know how sporadic these are. There's been an awful lot going on in my family lately, including the imminent birth of another grandchild, and the fact that my job has taken me away from home more days than I would like. Anyway, I'm here now, and I'm here with a new set of studio speakers. So this is going to be interesting. What I thought I would do is we'll get the studio speakers. I've got the existing ones obviously set up here. The existing ones I've had for a long time. I bought them a long time ago as a package with a Roland MIDI controller, which I've still got as part of the setup here, and a Roland sort of built-in Rumpler, I suppose you'd call it, little sound box. With the most appalling lag to it, which was one reason why I didn't keep it. And I bought these Edirol speakers. They all come as kind of part of the package, so as active speakers. Now they've done really good service over the years, considering at my level of engagement and with the whole hobby. But they are definitely sounding a bit dodgy now. I think one of the drivers in the right hand one, the active one up here, you can't see it quite from there, has gone, or at least it's doesn't sound as good as it might. So I'm going to what I'm going to do is just let you have a listen at those, and then I'm going to install these HS5s here. I was just looking for something a little bit chunkier, a little bit more professional sounding, and much as I've loved Roland stuff in the past, it's time for a change, time to try a different manufacturer. So these, for me, for the budget, these are about £145. That was absolutely fine by me. I could have spent a lot more, I could have gone cheaper, but again, given my amount of usage of the studio speakers, this seemed like a good price point to be going with. So without any further ado, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to get these out of the box. Let's have a look at getting them out of the box. Everyone likes a bit of an unboxing, don't they? I seem to have done a lot of those so far in this channel. Let's get these out of the box, and then we'll have a look, a bit of a side-by-side comparison. Obviously I can't just have two sets of them blazing away at the same time. You wouldn't be able to tell anything from that. But what I will do is I'll play some music through the existing ones. First of all, I'll use my current track, which I'm still working on a video for, the ruled track, and then I'll stick those on there, and you can judge for yourself as best as you can through a mobile phone and through a YouTube video about the difference between the two, and I'll give you my impressions about those as well. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, here we are. So let's get these unboxed. Pretty rubbish out there, by the way. It's Friday the 5th of December today, 2025, and I've got to say it's a pretty yucky day. It's weird actually. I've just had been on a long drive to come home from where I've been working, and it was been a bit icy this morning. I really had the worst icing up on the car of the year so far this morning. The one where you've had really watery, humid condensation and then a sudden freeze. So it was at very sort of thick ice, proper old frost on the car this morning. Driving back home. Anyway, so it's not great out there. Okay, let's see what we've got under the flap here with my little multi-tool. Under the flap, let's have a look in here, and as you might imagine, here we go, the UK IEC plug. That already speaks good things to me, because I like a good IEC plug. I also happen to think that UK style plugs, which are used also in Singapore and Hong Kong, maybe a few other places, happen to be the best power sockets in the world. They've got their very own fuse, they're very secure, they have their flaps to cover the main connections until you plug in the earth. Done properly, UK style of plug is definitely the best one out there. But, anyway, so considering there's a booklet here, considering that this is a set of speakers, right? It's not a synthesizer. It's not it's not a medical surgery robot. You know, it's a set of speakers. It has quite a considerable size of manual, of which this much. There's actually 8 different languages in here. This much of it, barely a millimetre thick, is the actual English part. So it's been much the same for everyone else, I imagine. So it just goes in to describe, and it's also, by the way, not just the manual for this model, but also for the HS7 and HS8 as well. So there's a lot to go on in here. Yeah, so there's the manual. I'll just put that out of the way over here. That organ was on for some reason. I'm back in, here we are. Right, right, now the polystyrene is all the way to the bottom, so I'm going to have to lift the box off very carefully. Comme ça. There we go. And equally carefully remove the. Now, being at the time of year when actually I'm wearing slippers and static electricity is abundant because of the okay. Well, this is embarrassing. I really should have checked this beforehand. I thought I was buying a pair of studio speakers, and what do I actually have? A very nice, really gorgeous HS5 speaker. I mean, it's going to be fantastic, this. It has an XLR. I'm just going to show you the back of this. So it has a, well, it's got the bass reflex here. There's my input. It has a, I take my glasses off to see this. So it's got a level control. It's got an XLR input, or it's got a quarter jack input. It also has that you can tweak the bass, the treble response by plus or minus 2 dB, which is pretty good. I guess, you know, this might take the edge off, or perhaps stick the edge on, if depending on what the room acoustics are like. And there is a control room switch here for -2 or -4 dB, so a sort of set turn down for that. Now this is where like I say, I feel a little embarrassed, because I was expecting this to be one of a pair, and what I have is one, and obviously I need 2 speakers. I want a pair of speakers like this. Clearly that is all and entirely on me and my lack of realization here. So tip for you all out there then, if you're going to buy a set of speakers, if you want a pair of studio speakers, make sure you actually buy both of them. And I thought I was buying a pair of speakers, because who wants one speaker? Seriously. I do have a perfectly good Yamaha PA system down here, but somehow a PA system is not going to give the response, you know, give really the right feel compared to having proper studio speakers. So the only course of action for me now is to go back to Gear 4 Music, where I got this one from, and obtain a second one, and also just check my orders. So I'm going to put this bit of video on hold until I have a second speaker, and then we will return to this subject, and we will actually do a proper comparison against the two. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in its box for now, and well, thank you for bearing with me, and I'll see you again once the second one of these has arrived, or I'll get one from somewhere. It might not be Gear for Music, but I'll certainly get a second one. Okay, see you like that. Here we go. Two at last. Well, it actually only took a couple of days, but we're not finished. As the other thing that turned up today was this Behringer patchbay. Now, I've never used a patchbay before. Everything you see in here has got its own mixer channel, and there's a lot of it, and it's starting to get a little bit much, and I thought there must be an easier way if I want to interconnect things in between each other, or make use of certain channels, not others. Surely I don't have to allocate a mixer channel to absolutely everything and end up buying a larger mixer than I need when half the kit isn't actually used on any particular song. So there we go. These are coming up on Amazon for 50 quid, brand new Behringer patchbay. It has the 3 switch settings on top, so you don't have to dig round the back. It is at least on top, which is probably a little bit awkward if it's enclosed inside a inside of something, inside of a 19-inch rack. But what I'm intending to do with it is to incorporate it somehow on this area here. I've got aspirations of attaching a little bit of 19-inch rack angle to in with these. Of course, it's only 1 U high, 45mm or so, so it's going to sit there quite happily as well, and that's fairly central to all of the other kit. That said, the other thing I'm going to do, I've decided also to have a little bit of a cleanup. I love all this kit. I love the aesthetic feeling of having it all spread out around the room, and just appreciating it for all its technological marvel, and just goodness is, that's one thing. But yeah, when it comes to actually trying to do some music, it's also very distracting to have everything out. Now, of course, it's simply not practical for me to put all this in a drawer somewhere. I don't have the drawer space, but there's lots of small things, anything basically smaller than one of the larger keyboards. So the Tasty Chips GR1, the Behringer D, the Behringer BM12 ring mod. I've even got my little scope there, which I've stuck out for the time being. And behind here, I've got the Digitac 2, the Korg Volca sample. There's even the stylophone here, and there's there's other bits, odds and ends, and it's just getting a bit much. And I fully agree. I agree in principle with people whose channels I've watched who said things like, keep it simple, keep your workspace simple, because all of this is very distracting. And I completely get that, as long as you have the space to put everything. And this being a very multifunctional space, I don't have all the space I would like in which to put everything. Nevertheless, I'm going to try and, as I say, just give myself a little bit more, less clutter, and hopefully that will have a mental impact as well. And I perhaps will be able to think a bit more clearly and maybe concentrate on certain things. I think during the winter months as well, or maybe when I'm just I don't have the time to try to embrace the entire thing at once in here. The other thing I want to do really is to take an odd instrument indoors and really get to know that instrument. Sometimes that might involve taking pairing it with something like a drum machine or a keyboard so that I can operate it. And certain things I'm not going to be lugging in and out of the indoors. I'm not going to take the Technics organ or the System 55 or even any of the computer stuff. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off subject here, but I'm just letting you know my thoughts about how the studio is developing, which is what this channel is about. Sorry, I appreciate for some people what I do is probably a bit boring because I'm not cutting to the chase. I'm not talking about all the latest brand new equipment all the time. But there is a reality, and I'm sure I'm not the only person for whom this reality exists, where everything, it takes time. There is fumbling through things, and there are learning points. There are things you try, and it just takes a while to evolve. And I hope that what you'll see from this channel is that as this evolves, I'm evolving, and the whole process. Now, of course, if you're already a very talented musician, which I am not, okay, I'm good on the melodeon, I can play some keys a bit, but I'm not up there. I'm not exactly, wouldn't call myself a pianist, and the way that many people are. So bearing all that in mind, I'm just doing my best with what I've got. Okay, so I'm going to put the patch bay to one side for a moment. We're not going to need that anytime soon, so I'm just going to put that out of the way. Now, can go down there for the time being, and I'm going to just get on with a bit of a demo on these speakers. Now, first of all, I'm going to put these speakers on. I'm not going to do anything clever with microphones. It's all coming off the phone today. But I am just going to pause you while I ready something. I'm just going to play some stuff. Just going to find something, a sequence or something to play through these speakers. And then I'm going to change it out for these. And might take me a while to get that set up, but of course you won't see that. So it's going to happen like that. So I've got the Edirol. These are the old Roland Edirol speakers, little studio monitors, active monitors I've had for a while. Now these are all driven from the amplifier in the right hand unit, and there's actually two inputs as well. So there's an audio line level input, there's a jack and a phono input, and one of them can be a digital input instead. So there's bass and treble and two volume controls on this. And I have found that quite useful, I will admit. But because I've got the patch bay now, I'm also thinking that I can do things differently about the final, or how I sort of switch final outputs around to things, stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just going to play something. This is going to sound a bit weird and random, but anyone who knows me or knows what kind of weird noises I like to make with stuff will appreciate that, of course. So here we go. This is a little bit of music to go with one of my drone flights. It's supposed to be a little bit suspenseful, kind of repetitive and almost uneasy in a way. But let's have a listen to this. And there's a weird shuddering quality in the background, which I think comes from the music rather than the speakers. I think the cones on these are okay, but sometimes they just feel a little bit buzzy, which is why I've decided to change them. I'm still going to use them actually. Just not in here. Thought they might be useful indoors. enough of that. So let's pause that. Okay, now I'm going to change the speakers over, and next time that you see me, there is going to be the HS5s on these nice sturdy brackets. Thank God I bought these large brackets that obviously had in mind some later additions to the system. So here we go. Ta-da! Here we go. I've dimmed the lights slightly for dramatic effect, but also because I wanted you to see clearly these monitors come up with a little, you can't see that one, screen's in the way, but you can see it on this one. The Yamaha logo is actually popping up on there, and yes, so a couple of challenges there. One of which was trying to find a couple of single jack to jacks that I wasn't using. I actually borrowed them off something else for the time being, because unlike the other one, of course, these two speakers are separate and have their own individual amplifiers. I'm guessing that they're identical in manufacture. Of course, there shouldn't be any difference between them. So even a slight tweak of the volume knob, that is obviously going to be a slight difference between the two. I guess that is a, I'd like them to be in balance, but then they don't have to be. Anyway, I've just had a little go of it myself, but see what you think. So I'm going to play a bit of that little refrain again, and it's going to go into, I'm just going to let it play a little bit, because we go from that little pling, 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 pling into quite a big vroom noise as well. There's a bit of a boom, which I can tell you wouldn't have come out so well with the old Edirol speakers. So let's give this a go. Let's just play on. Now I hope you're listening to this on something that can reproduce low frequencies, because there's quite a boom there, as you can see. But, well, I'll tell you what I think. Okay, enough of that. I'll tell you what I think. I think these are much, much tighter. I mean, okay, you might say, I bought those many, many years ago, after a long time, and the units are smaller. They're only 3-inch units on the other ones. These are 5-inch units. So it might be 4 actually, the other ones, but these are about 5-inch units, and they are certainly, they've got a nicer tweeter. I think the sound is certainly a lot more clipped and compact, if you see what I mean. It's very nicely reproduced. There's no extra noise there at all. There is a small amount of noise coming from the speakers, but it's not from the speakers amplifiers at all. That will be coming from the from my setup here, which is bound to be making a little bit of noise, especially with USB and things like that plugged in. But yeah, I've got to say that all that clip-clop kind of noise sounded a much crisper, sounded much more crisp to me and better than the other set of speakers that did. Like I said, I'm going to keep them because they're still a good pair of active monitor speakers. I don't really need them in this setup, although if I decide to do something with one piece of kit that's as distinct from the rest, it's possible, I suppose, that I could use them just with that to listen to them. I'm not a big headphone wearer. I do when I'm indoors, when my wife is in bed, or obviously downstairs watching TV or whatever. I try to keep the music to myself, but in this environment, I'm not really big on headphones unless I'm doing vocals and things like that. Obviously, that's a different case. So there you go. The HS5's definitely staying. I got the second one from Anderton's Music, by the way, in Guildford. I did originally order the second one from Gear 4 Music, where I got the first one from. And I have to say, Gear 4 Music, something went wrong for me. I don't know if I did something wrong or if it was wrong on the website, but something went wrong with my ordering process, and it came later than I thought. And when I realised I only had one speaker, and that was my silly fault, and I ordered another one, I originally ordered it for next day delivery, and that option was available to me, and I paid the extra for that delivery, only to be notified the following day that the item arrived too late from stock to actually achieve next day delivery, and they couldn't actually tell me when the delivery was going to be made as well. So I decided to cancel that order. I was invited to cancel the order, which is what I've done, and instead I ordered the second one from Anderton's, where I have also bought quite a bit of the kit here from, in actual fact. Quick shout out to PMT Music as well, in the UK, chain of stores, 11 stores, including ones in Bristol and Nottingham that I bought equipment from, sadly now closed down. Big shame. It was Gear for Music that bought their stock, but without continuing on with the name. So, bit of a shame, but the competition is fierce, and when there are companies like Anderton's that can deliver very quickly and were actually a bit cheaper even than Gear for Music, gotta say, just a tad, £5 in it, that you know, what you're going to do, you're going to go with that, or you're going to go with the people you trust. Anyway, enough about that. Happy with the speakers. My next job in here will be to attach the patch bay. Now, I'm not going to do this right away. Obviously the patch bay, the thing about the patch bay is it relies on lots and lots and lots of individual 1/4 inch jacks, and of course a lot of the kit in here, while I do have a lot of 1/4 inch jacks, I also have an awful lot of phono plugs around the place, and everything goes directly from the equipment into a mixing channel somewhere. Now what I'm proposing to do is to take a lot of the equipment via this patch bay, and in doing so it means that I'm going to need a lot more things that terminate in a 1/4 inch plug. So that's my fun job coming up soon, and of course I will need to give these cables that I'm using on these speakers back to their rightful place, and also somehow work out how I'm going to do the effects and things like that in future. So there's going to be a few changes. It's going to be a bit clearer, and I'm going to be a bit more organised about my wiring, and I'm hoping that having done so that there'll be some mental clarity as well, and that will help with the old creative process. Anyway, I thank you for watching. I know this has been almost quite a rudimentary and pedestrian look at these speakers, but if you are considering a setup and you're looking into getting some studio speakers, even on the first outage of these, I can say I'm actually very pleased with these Yamaha HS5 speakers. They are not too big, but they are big enough. They're not too small either. They're just the right size for this room. This room at overall is just shy of about 28 square meters or so in this actual space. The whole building is more like 30. So yeah, it's a fair size space. I'm only trying to cover at about half of that with the studio, and obviously I'm not using them in a control room studio environment, and not unless I get a big sheet of glass, you know, and decide to put in a recording. Hey, that's an idea, isn't it? If I decide to put in a recording facility and screen, then that would change the whole dynamic of this room. I doubt whether I'm going to do that. Too many other things are intended to happen in here, in photography, cinema, general electronics radio. So, you know, part of the Trev Talks Tech idea is that there are lots of different bits and pieces, but I know I do tend to concentrate on this. Okay, I've been talking enough. Let's go. Thanks for watching. You've been great. I've been Trev Talks Tech, and I'll see you next time. Bye.